Computer. Okay. All right, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the Friday Morning Book Group. So nice to have everyone with us on this beautiful, but chilly April morning. We are
like fall.
yeah, like fall is right. We are on Zoom, and hopefully, if things stay good, we will be live in person next month in May on May 20th in the Wakeland Room, and we will discuss The Splendid and the Vile by Eric Larson. But today we are going to discuss The Maid by Nita Prose. And The Maid.
Deb, will you send out an email with that book title, or should I just jot it down right now?
I actually already sent an email to everyone alerting them of the title. The books are already on the shelf behind the reference desk.
Oh, I'm sorry. I must have missed the email.
Yeah, it went out yesterday. So you all should be aware that if you don't see an email from me, you should check your spam or your junk folder, because sometimes it does go there. So just be aware of that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. The Maid. So Molly the Maid. I love that character. And I think Nita Prose did a fantastic job of drawing her and making her come to life, in my mind, at least. So Molly the Maid is so similar to all of us, but yet she's a little bit different. I connected with her in a lot of ways, and I'm sure we all did in different ways. She struggles in social situations. She misreads verbal cues, and sometimes her speech is off-putting, but always she is so sincere. She learns to be less literal, less black and white, a little bit more gray, but basically she finds it a challenge to interpret much of the world around her. But she's also so much like an old soul. She's so endearing, so very clever in the finer points of life. Her respect for others, her tremendous work ethic, her extreme cleanliness and punctuality, and her ability to sort of see the forest for the trees, as I put it. So I felt like her job suited her just perfectly. The orderliness, the little soap bottles, the crisp uniform, freshly pressed every day, and cleaning every room to perfection, as she says. And then her world gets upended, her grand dies, and she's caught in this web of murder and deceit, and it becomes a thriller and a page turner, and who killed Mr. Black. And but underneath all that, there are themes of justice and right and wrong, and sort of the Robin Hood theme of, you know, uh, the assumptions about justice and punishment, and the subjectiveness of fairness and who is right, and do we get to mete out punishment on those who deserve it, those who don't deserve it. There's a lot to talk about. Is truth subjective? Is it not subjective? It was subjective. Her gran felt it was subjective, and she learned that from her. So a lot to talk about. The theme of invisibility. She felt she was invisible. Why would they want to talk to a maid? You know, she said that to the detective. She had these 3 E's that she believed in: etiquette, elocution, and erudition. She learned that from her gran. So there is a movie in production. I don't think it is out yet. If anybody knows differently, let me know. But I think the movie is in production. And so lots to talk about. I tried to get some bio on the author. There was not very much, other than she works in the publishing industry. She began years ago as an intern, and she basically was photocopying manuscripts and secretly snooping the fascinating margin conversations between editors and writers. And she says now she's VP and editorial director at Simon & Schuster in Toronto, Canada, where she has the privilege of working with an incredible array of authors and publishing colleagues whom she credits with teaching her the wondrous craft of writing. So that's Nita Prose. So as always, I open the floor up to comments, questions, and again, everyone knows, you can speak, you don't have to, but I love to hear your thoughts. So you just raise your hand and I call on you. Who would like to go first? Anybody?
I would, Deborah. I have a son who's on the spectrum. So when I was reading the book, and I've only gotten halfway through, but I had to laugh because I felt like it was him, just the non-filter and what she was saying. And it's interesting for on the spectrum people, they feel that they don't have empathy, where it's totally the opposite. They almost have too much empathy. And you can see by how much she cares about Giselle and her job. But I'm surprised that they didn't, the detective thinking it was shock and not her, being on the spectrum or something. And it seems like because they're talking about Instagram, it was fairly soon, that this all happened. So, but yeah, it was great. And I love her relationship, how she looks back with her grandmother, and it was wonderful.
Yeah.
So far, I haven't finished the book, so
Anyway,
I wanted to join today because I thought it was very interesting.
I'm so glad you did. Thank you so much. I think many of us may have personal experience. I do as well. My grandson is also on the spectrum, and likewise, he is can be, not always, he can be very empathic. And it is very, very, very sweet. So thank you so much. Thank you very much. Who else would like to speak? I think it's Judy. Judy Connor? Yeah.
Judy O'Connor here.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with what was said about the child, about Molly being on the spectrum. But I also think that the detective really should have had a little bit more insight into that, although maybe this is just an example of what can happen when somebody gets caught up in the system and can't explain their way out of it, if you will.
Yeah, it's kind of a I think I think with the detective she seemed a little burnt out to me, but I don't know. She seemed like she just didn't have the patience, but she should have, as you said, be a little more aware, perhaps.
I would have hoped that law enforcement would be a little bit more aware, but then, what you see on the news points to a different direction, I guess. And the detective was certainly looking for a suspect, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. And she alludes to that in the book, those of you who finished it, how we incarcerate people who are not guilty, just trying to find someone who appears to be guilty, but is really not, just to get it over with, get them in jail. And I'm glad that she brings that out in the book.
Yeah, and maybe that's the author's intent as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Thank you so much. Rosalind.
Well, yeah, Rosalind. I thought it was interesting because I thought the author really knew how to write in a very concrete way. And I think by picking a maid, there was so much opportunities for concrete detail. So of descriptions of, polishing the crystal and whatever. So I thought that really made that made me admire the craft of it all. But secondly, I also think I evaluated myself a lot of, very concrete thinkers. And I thought it was interesting because the character evolved not from just a concrete thinker, but very crafty, very thoughtful and deep understanding of how she wanted to manipulate her own world. So
Yeah.
even though she was being manipulated herself by everybody around her, she actually turned out at the end to be the force for manipulation of all the detail.
Exactly.
And I thought that was amazing. At first, I thought it was a little bit unbelievable, but then I thought it was very masterful as I finished it.
Yeah, good for you. Thank you for saying that, because I didn't quite have the words, but that was my thought. She became the crafty one. Exactly. Thank you. Oh, there's Tanya. Let me let Tanya in. Thank you for saying that. Perfectly said. I thought. Excellent. Thank you so much. Hi, Tanya. Hopefully
I,
she'll get in. I hear you, but oh, there you are. Thank you for coming.
you know what? I couldn't get the link. It was
Oh,
hard for me to get.
I'm sorry. Well, you know what? Next time I'll send it to you directly and you won't have a problem.
No, because what happened is that you put down that we had to register again, and I registered before. So maybe, I don't know.
Oh,
But I got on, thank God.
oh, good, good. All right. Yeah, Abby.
So I agree with what Rosalind said. First of all, I really, really enjoyed this book. I thought it was really special and really well written, really well done. So first of all, I had so much empathy for the character. I mean, I really got into Molly. I just loved her. And at the end, I so wanted her to get together with that guy. Like it meant so much to me as I was reading it. I'm like, I hope this happens. I hope this happens. And it does. And I think that's wonderful. So as Rosalind was saying, I thought that was interesting that everyone didn't see her as smart. She was invisible and what have you. But at the end, you see that she withheld some details. So it shows that, she had some wherewithal. She knew what she was doing. And I think a lot of the book for me was like, you see people, but you really don't see them. You have your own interpretations, and if you don't get to know someone, you don't really know them. So, so I thought that was interesting. I really liked it.
I think the author was trying to teach us we should not make assumptions about people, and
Exactly.
in a very good way, in a very clever way.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Abby. Thank you. I appreciate that. Nancy.
Yes. So, related to the theme of manipulation, it was sad, but I felt like Rodney was so transparent in his deception. But because Molly had such a great need for affection, that your need overrides all the little signs that he gave signs of being a narcissist, manipulative, by showing where he didn't really care for her, but she overlooked all of those signs. I guess that can happen to any one of us, but I don't know if it happened more to her because of the character, the frank character that she is, and a pure heart. But I don't know about you all, but I felt right from the beginning, Rodney showed one sign after another of just using her.
Love
is blind.
Love is blind. I think with Molly, you're right. She was alone. She was a loner because people thought she was an oddball. She didn't have a lot of friends. It was hard for her to make friends. And this guy seemed to, he likes me, and boy, I'm attracted to him. And she fell head over heels, and she may in the back of her head have thought, oh, maybe he's unsavory, but she kind of pushed that away because, hey, here's somebody who really might care about me. Unlike Wilbur, she had Wilbur, who was a real jerk. But maybe Rodney is different. She wanted to give him a chance. She wanted somebody. She wanted to, remember, she wanted to lay her head on somebody's shoulder and get a hug. You know, she missed her gran. I can see it. I can totally see it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that. Thank you. Thank you, Nancy. Yeah, Judy.
For probably 2/3 of the book, I sort of felt sorry for Molly. You know, yeah, she lost her grandmother and these guys are taking advantage of her. And I'm saying, you know, don't you see the handwriting on the wall? And in fact, there was one scene where she goes in to clean up the suite and she says, oh, they got donut sugar on the table. And I said, that's not donut sugar.
Oh,
and at that point, I realized that something was going on there that was not good. But then it seemed like once the man who was the porter who was at the front door of the hotel,
Preston.
and his daughter
Preston.
got on the scene, it was like they pushed a switch on her because suddenly somebody cared about her and was trying to help her make things right. And it was like there was this personality shift in her.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was quite masterful what she did in the courtroom, but I wondered, did they convict Rodney of the murder? I couldn't figure that out. I don't think so, but he at least went to jail for what he was doing with the drugs in the hotel.
Yeah. I don't think he was actually convicted, but he went to jail for the drugs.
Yeah, that's what I think the end was. So, and then, you know, she got Juan, who adored her, and you know, it ended happily ever after.
It was so sweet.
I enjoyed reading it.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad, Judy. That's great. Who has not spoken? Oh, Harriet.
Yeah, I thought it was, the book was paced very nicely, because just when you were sort of getting tired of one thing, she moved it along, at least for me. And I also like that she didn't label Molly as on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Even though we all pretty much know, but you know, there's so many more, you know, now they call people, is it, neuroatypical?
Neurodivergent. Yeah. Neurodivergent. Yeah.
And so that really gave her a more universal appeal, I think, rather than identifying her as being on the spectrum.
Sure.
So I thought the book was masterfully done, for sure.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. That's true. She did a great job with the everything, with the pacing, and then the final couple of pages. You know, it was just like a thriller. You know, to come to the end and then find out Mrs. Black killed him. You know, and all that. But
and it had a happy ending. And I find that with all that's going on in the world, I need happy endings.
Yes, I totally get that. I'm so glad you liked it. Thank you. Thank you so much. I guess Richard, you got the floor.
Well, she was, you know, the suspect, but my question is, connections make a huge difference. If she did not have Mr. Preston and Charlotte to help her out,
Yeah.
it would have been as fortunate.
Yes. Right. That's true.
I'm not sure. That made a huge difference.
Yes.
There.
And a big question, talking about Mr. Preston.
That was interesting, his connection with her grandmother.
So what do you think? Do you think Mr. Preston and the grandmother, was he actually her grandfather? What do you think?
They left it open.
They left it open, but I think so. Do you?
I think so. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Richard.
That's why that have been another reason he was so interested in her welfare.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much.
I've already spoken, so I don't want to,
Yeah.
whenever you get a chance. So I don't want
Anybody
to.
like to speak who hasn't spoken? Irene.
Well, I didn't think I was going to like the book because I usually don't like mysteries, but I sat down and I read 90 pages just like that.
Assumptions, Irene.
I know. So this is why it's good to be in this book club, because you bring me books I would never even
my club.
never heard of. And so I think that's the fastest book I've read in a long time, and it was just
Right.
I really loved it. And as I said, it was nice to be reading about people, so many people who were being nice to each other.
That's a good point. That's
Yes,
a good point.
yeah, and I thought it was very well written, and just kept your interest, and they changed pace just when it needed to be changed. It was
Oh, that's great. That's great.
yeah, it was good.
Well, I so appreciate that. A small a backstory. This book was on the library holds list. This book had well over 600 holds on it, and I could not get any copies. But I will give a shout out to the Friends of the Library. The Friends of the Library were gracious to purchase the copies for me, which is why the books that you got were not barcoded. They were bought by the Friends of the Library, and otherwise we couldn't have done the book because we didn't have these copies in the library, and I could not get them from other libraries because we had hundreds of holds. So it turned out to be okay.
I have a friend, and I always tell her what book we're reading, and she reads them afterwards, and she's still waiting for a month for her copy to show up at the Boston Public Library. Says there are 142 people ahead of me now.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll be anxious I would love to see when the movie comes out. I don't know who's going to be in it or anything like that, but I'd like to see it. Tanya, I think I saw your hand.
Yes. As usual, I like the choice of the book that you chose.
Thank you.
And the only thing I felt very sorry for her, she was so gullible. She believed everybody, and she depended on her grandma so much.
Yeah.
And it seems like at the end was the best part, because then she gets the help and she starts understanding life a little better.
Yes.
But all in all, I thought it was a wonderful read, and I enjoyed the book so much.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Thank you so much, Tanya. Thank you. Thank you for coming. All right. Anne.
Well, I went online and I listened to an interview. She's a fascinating woman. Prose is not her real name. It's some longer name. And I think, as I remembered, that when she's writes her magazines, I think she lives with the photographer. I think he's her partner. But other than that, she's an interesting person. She's young.
Yes.
And she's kind of loosey-goosey. It was an interesting interview, if you can find it. I just went on Siri.
The only thing I heard was that she said if you come visit her, she lives in Canada, her house is definitely not neat.
Right, yeah.
Not clean to perfection. Yeah. That's the only thing I heard about her. But I'd love to hear the interview, yeah. Well, thank you.
It's a very good interview.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you. Thank you. I think we've probably heard from everybody. Does anybody have any additional comments? Nancy.
So I finished the book a long time ago, so I hope that I'm remembering this correctly. The ending was just, the epilogue or whatever was just off scale, but it made me think that Molly was actually somewhat lying on the stand by not disclosing the truth fully.
Yes, yes.
Well,
So that in
it's-
my mind was a really twist in character that 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 I would not have expected out of her. So
Well,
I don't know if anybody else felt that way. That
well, remember she said that she learned from her grandma that truth is subjective. Remember that?
yeah, that's true.
It's kind of believed in the Robin Hood
And
theory.
I think,
you know.
I think she helped her grandmother die,
That's
which-
right. She
which
did.
when you came across that in the book, is that, oh, really?
Right. That was
Yeah, I
not-
can understand why she would do that, but
It wasn't completely kosher either, you know.
right.
But when somebody's dying of cancer, you're allowed to give them as much morphine as you want.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
that's also
a very
Yeah.
fine line, gray line. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess so. She did put the pillow over, didn't she?
Yes,
She did.
that's not
She did.
morphine.
Forgotten that.
she did. Yeah, that's why I said there's quite a lot of
Yeah.
ethical discussion from this book. Right and wrong. What do you do? How do you view this? You know.
Well, How
who's
about the
to say?
shadow in the mirror?
The shadow in the mirror. Yeah, Mrs. Black.
That was a
You know,
shock.
like the reviews talk about it like a clue, like the game Clue, like a clue-like mystery. But there's a lot of underlying themes here, you know. And I love how she brings out the immigrant, you know, Juan Manuel, how, you know, he is here, he gets his papers taken away and how awful that is. And she brings out a lot of important stories. Who had her hand up?
Giselle. I'd like to do you think Giselle was setting her up as well? I think she kind of was.
I don't think Giselle had the brains to do that. I don't know. That's my
Well,
take.
she was part of the ring. She knew what was going on.
Yeah, but
She-
I don't know.
But
Maybe
then she sent her money
Yeah.
in the end.
she did. Because all Giselle wanted was she wanted to be away, get her island,
Yeah.
get her the rest of her life. She didn't want to be bothered. She wanted her.
I was kind of surprised that at the very last minute, before he went out, he said, okay, he signed the house over to her.
Yeah,
I thought that was a little odd.
It was a little odd to me as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I think Richard, you had your hand up. I'm sorry, Richard.
Points. Her excellence in being a housewife. I felt happy for the fact that her boss there, Cheryl,
Uh-huh.
Oh,
found out about her.
Could
Yeah.
you speak into the mic or speak up?
I didn't think she was that wonderful because Molly got her position, and I guess it was justice prevailed. You know, Cheryl stealing her tips, and
Yeah, right. That's right. Justice prevailed. Yeah,
part about the locker room and stealing that.
that's right. That's right.
There's a lot of subtleties of things in the background of the book.
That's right. That's true. That's so true. You're right. Abby, did you want to speak?
It was interesting in the book how all the characters, or most of them, were so selfish. And she was so prominently not selfish that it made the other characters even more selfish. I guess her possible grandfather wasn't, but it seemed like everyone else had something that they were trying to gain or they were trying to do. And I just like the way, you know, that Nita Prose put her so innocent that everyone looks so guilty in everything that they were doing. And then I think that's a reflection on society. Like, you can step back and take a look at your own self in your own life. Like, are you doing things just for gain, or are you really helping people out? Or I really like that message. I thought that was really
Yeah,
interesting.
she was very pure. She was very pure. She really was. She had no ulterior motives. Yeah. I think Judy Gertler had her hand up first.
Okay, as far as Mr. Black signing over the property to her in the Cayman Islands, I suspected maybe they had had an argument, and Giselle knew what was going on there with their little drug factory. And she might have said to him, if you don't sign the thing over to me, I'm going to spill the beans on you.
See, you read mysteries probably.
I do. that was my suspicion of what happened. And
you're right.
Molly perceived Giselle as her friend, even though she found out that she was fooling around with Rodney. But she still, called her and said, get out of here as soon as you can.
Yeah.
And saved her hide too.
Definitely.
So that was my take on the property thing.
That could very well be. That's a good idea.
Point.
Yeah, good point. And I think, who else? Rosalind.
Well, I was just wanting to comment about our feelings about her purity, because when you really think about it, you see her as being so amazingly truthful and honest, but she really wasn't. And I think that was the brilliance of the author, that you were always rooting for her. Yes, pawn that ring, get the money, get the gun, do these things that were very illegal. And that's why what you had brought up before, I think, is so accurate about what is justice in the book, what was right and what was wrong. And that you are rooting for a character that you want her to succeed and do all these things that that you should be going to the police about. And I think that was the cleverness of the author, to make you feel that way.
Yeah, you're probably right on target on that.
Yeah.
She drew her up that way. So perfectly said. Yeah, you're right. We all were rooting for her.
And the landlord. The landlord was
Mr.
a great
Rosso.
character.
Mr. Rosso, yeah. Oh, wasn't he awful? He was a slumlord.
Exactly. Well, they had to walk up the 5th floor.
Yeah, and that was another.
Charlotte's. Charlotte's parting shot.
Another societal ill that Prose brought out. Slumlords. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Well, that's what they could afford. But Charlotte's parting shot was, get in an elevator or I'm going to report you.
Yeah, but I mean, he was operating illegally.
Yeah.
So plenty of those around. So Harriet.
Yes, speaking of plenty of those around, I thought that the bad guys in this were very identifiable in some way or another. They weren't the grandiose evil plots of a lot of, detective mysteries. But, there's the Cheryl, who's the petty thief, just kind of weaseling her way. She wasn't grandiose or really evil. She was just sort of a, like a, just a petty person. And I think so many of the bad people in this, I don't know if you've had corporate jobs or, a lot of these people have been present in some form or another, I think, in just about everybody's life, as you go through life. That was interesting to me, that they were so relatable, kind of.
Yeah, good point. Richard.
Talk about was Juan Michel.
Pardon?
Talk about Juan Michel, the dishwasher that.
Juan Manuel.
Was it Manuel? Okay.
Juan Manuel.
you put him in par with Molly, or I mean, he was basically the guy. I mean, he was being used and
I'm sorry, we can't hear you too well, Richard.
was being used.
Oh,
Uh,
yes, of course.
uh,
Oh, yeah.
and you know, all the injuries he suffered, and
Oh, it's terrible. Terrible. And so many, many like him in this
right.
world.
And I was glad that things turned out better for him in the end of the book.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Again, Charlotte, Mr. Preston. I mean, if they hadn't come on the scene, I don't know.
And one other thing I want to mention was I really, coincidentally, I got real respect for what is a good housekeeper, because I was just away in Florida. And the place I stayed at was mighty clean. That was particularly impressive.
Was clean?
Really clean.
Oh,
All
you
place-
thought of Molly?
thought of Molly after staying there. And it was very impressive because I looked at reviews. And I can't tell you how many bad reviews I saw at various places. A lot of one.
Yeah.
For lack of help, to tell you the truth.
Sure.
So I really had a respect of the housekeeper, of a good housekeeper.
Sure. I'm sure you left her a great tip.
Or them.
Or them or he. Excellent. Well, I think we're going to wrap up unless anybody has any additional comments. I think this was a amazing discussion. I'm so glad to see all of you, and your thoughts and your comments are wonderful, wonderful insights, and thank you so much. I so appreciate your being here. This recording will go up hopefully today on our website, if I get time to do it today, otherwise tomorrow. And next month, May 20, we will meet in person, but you do still have to register on our website. May 20 at 10 a.m. in the Wakeland room. I will have the seats spaced out. It will be very safe. Masks will be optional, but I do encourage masks. We do not mandate masks, but we do encourage them. That is the policy for the entire library, as it is for the classes and all the book groups. Well, we only have 2 book groups. So, and a little plug for the other book group. We have a science fiction fantasy book group. If anybody enjoys that, that meets on I believe it's the third Tuesday night of the month at 7 p.m. And that is in person. If anybody likes science fiction fantasy.
Do you want to say anything about that email you sent out about the Holocaust?
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. So this is Holocaust Remembrance Month, and I did some programs this month in remembrance of that. I sent out some reminders. I hope people came in on Monday night. I had a wonderful survivor speaking, Magda Bader. She spoke Monday night. I hope people listened. You did, Tanya? Oh, good. Yeah, she was quite amazing. She's 92. She has quite a memory. She's amazing. My rabbi referred me to her, and I recorded it. We're going to put it up eventually. I have to edit it, and then we're going to put it up on the website.
Okay.
And then Wednesday night, I showed a movie called Undeniable: Truth to Remember, and that movie it was a CBS documentary, so anybody can actually watch it. It's for public viewing, and it's an amazing movie about survivors who go into schools and they tell their stories, but just a snapshot. One of the survivors who they particularly profile she goes into Texas school and a high school, and in that school, they don't teach about the Holocaust. Of course, it's Texas, and the children there have never heard of it. They don't know what Holocaust means, and they don't know what it is. And when she tells them what it is and her story, they start to cry because they are victims of genocide themselves. They're from Africa. They're from countries where genocides have occurred, and they are immigrants escaping these genocides. So they feel like, wow, this woman has survived a genocide, and look how old she is, and maybe we can also survive and be successful and thrive. So it's an extremely moving documentary. And I highly recommend it on CBS. Undeniable, The Truth to Remember. And you can get it on, probably on YouTube. I'm not positive, I think so. So, and then I did a big display up here, books, Holocaust related books, but that ends at the end of the month tomorrow. And then we start a new display in May. And I'm doing a display on history related to Ukraine. So all about Ukraine, the history, the war. People are very anxious to learn about Ukraine, so that's what I'm doing. So if you're interested, there'll be a lot of books. Okay, so if there are no further comments.
I have just, maybe I don't want to take up everybody else's time, but I just have a technical question. I got the email for LIBCAL, LiveCal, for the Zoom meeting, but I'm not getting any of your other. I got that yesterday. So maybe if you wouldn't mind checking my email with me, we can do it offline or whatever.
Sure. So just send me an email with your correct email. Okay.
Sure. Where do I get your email?
Oh,
is it LIBCAL?
No.
No, that's the calendar.
Yeah,
No.
that's what I got for the reminder for the book group for the Zoom, but
So,
I don't have any emails from you.
Oh, that's odd. You checked the junk
He doesn't have your email.
I did. I checked the spam folder and everything.
Okay, so
But
I'm
you don't have her on your list, do you?
I do.
Oh, you do?
D Berenbaum at wellesleyma.gov. It's pretty easy.
I'm sorry. D Berenbaum
at wellesleyma.gov. So send me an email with your correct email and I'll write back to you.
Okay. BEREMBAUM.
Right.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Of course. All right. Well, everybody take care. Be well. And I'll see you all soon.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for coming. Take care.